There we go. Whew. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Glad to be here. You'll love this. You know how every week there's some little new twist. I started using these the wireless mics. I don't know, sometime within the last year. And as I was getting them out to hook up this evening, I opened the little case that they're in, and they went. And one went that way, and one went that way, and I couldn't find them. So thank you for your patience. I think we're all together now. I'm all together. Well, I don't know. I'm never all together, but we're going to give it a shot. Welcome to another good-natured hour. I wanted to start off with a couple little things that I picked up along the way. These leaves are actually from a tree here in St. Charles, but the fruit I wanted to compare them to was something I picked up on my trip to Kansas City this past weekend. I was out there for a wedding. Mrs. Trisha's daughter got married this past weekend, and every morning I'd take my dogs out for a walk, and I'd walk around the neighborhood. And I tell you, going, even though it's still the same time zone, it's a couple of states away, and you see all sorts of different things, some familiar things, which we'll see later on in the slides. But I was seeing these leaves on the ground, and I got all excited because you'll notice that they're deeply lobed in a sort of a star-shaped pattern. Here's a maple leaf for comparison. So you can see there's a big difference between them. And then because we're in the fall or the autumn of the year, now's the time you can also find the fruit of the sweetgum tree. It's one of my favorites. When I was down at U of I had to take an art class, and the teacher told us to bring in objects from nature to draw. And I don't know why I didn't pick something simple like a maple seed or a leaf even, but I picked these. And man, for somebody who doesn't really have a whole lot of artistic ability, and then to have something that has perspective on it. Anyway, I got to know these fruits really, really well. The fruit of the sweetgum. So they are planted here as ornamentals, but as you are non-native species in this area. But if you go farther downstate, and then as you go even farther south of here, you'll start to see more and more of the sweetgum. Now, with that, I think we'll go ahead and start the slides, because there's some other southern aspects that I would like to share with you, courtesy of one of our employees at the Nature Center. So let's go ahead and get this started. Our employee Rachel was on vacation last week, and she went to one of the coolest places on earth, the Snake Road down in down in there it is, Southern Illinois. And yes, she has tons of cool snake photos, but I wanted to show you these. I would say, oh gosh, I had been at the Park District a couple of years. I want to say it was 2009 when there was an armadillo sighted. Let's zoom this in here. Sighted in Cook County. And there was some discussion at the time as to whether it was brought up here or whether it had walked here. As it turns out, this was back when armadillos weren't considered to be a part of the Illinois mammal scape. And But since that time, which is a relatively short period of time from 2009 until now, 13 years, when you think of how long it takes for some animals to expand their range, armadillos and opossums too are two animals that have spread fairly rapidly as compared to other animals. These things were just Rachel said they were just kind of all over. Here's one. These, by the way, these are 9-banded armadillos. Some people pronounce it armadillo. But I kind of want to get back down to Southern Illinois to look for these, in addition to all the cool snakes that are down there. But she said this was rooting around their campground. We used to joke when we would drive south, say going through Missouri towards the Ozarks, there was a line where the roadkill would change from raccoons to armadillos. That's when you knew you were in the South. But now these guys, they're advancing northward at a pretty rapid rate. Here's another view of one, kind of high stepping its way across. That is I believe that is the Snake Road, which, by the way, it's a Forest Service road down the Shawnee. I think it's Forest Service Road 345, but it's not paved. And yep. I got curious as to just where armadillos have made it in Illinois. In this area where this one was seen is the extreme southern portion of the state. Well, I pulled up a range map from Illinois, and look at that. They are halfway through the state. And they are considered permanent in those areas. Now, will they continue to advance northward? They probably will in the warm weather months, but will they be able to survive? So far, our winter temperatures are such that it gets too cold for too long of a period of time. But things are changing, and who knows? It could be that armadillos are one day going to be a part of our landscape as well. Well, just if you happen to see one somewhere, even if it's downstate, if it's close to home, even better. If you could let me know. I'm not doing any kind of formal research on it. It's just more of a curiosity thing at this point. But I am fascinated at how an animal that doesn't have a whole lot going for it in terms of protection from the elements. Now, it can protect itself pretty well from a lot of predators unless it gets flipped over. These always reminded me of mammal versions of roly-polies. But they are moving, and they are being sighted even in northern Illinois. The key is when, But so anyway, if you know of someone who's seen one, please let me know, and they might be worth a column. Now, Jerry, you sent me this a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to share it because these are seen around here as well. I don't know if any of you recognize this plant. Let's zoom in here on this very interesting looking seed pod. This is a plant I came to know, again, when I started here at St. Charles and teaching our wetland ecology program at Otter Creek Bend. This seed pod is on a vine. You can see here, and if, let's see, can we zoom in anymore? Maybe if I stop the slideshow. Yeah, there we can zoom. Oh, no, we can't. Never mind. I'll go back to the bigger screen view. It's a wild cucumber plant. And no, they're not edible. I'm not exactly sure how they got the name, but I tell you, Mr. Dick Young, he was a fan of them. He rated them a 5 on the index of conservancy, which means the higher the number, the more choosy the plant is about where it lives. Some plants are extremely conservative, makes them are a little harder to find, but it also then serves as an indication that it is found its perfect growing conditions, which often involve undisturbed areas, undisturbed soils. Wild cucumber, he gives it a 5, and he calls it uncommon on floodplains and in moist areas, usually floating on top of its vegetative hosts, 5 to 10 feet in length, a graceful, erect, 6-petaled blossom. They cluster during August and September, followed by a fascinating inflated bristly cucumber pods. This helps makes this fast-growing annual a pleasing part of our rich wetlands landscape. So that was a cool find, Jerry, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. Are you here tonight, Jerry? I'm not sure
Yeah,
if you are or
couldn't
not, but
be. She
you
couldn't
can
be here
find it,
tonight, Pam.
as I said, at Otter Creek Bend locally. And if you happen to find yourself in a rich wetland area, keep your eyes open for it. It does spread out nicely over branches. Usually, I used to see it growing amongst the willows and gosh, even some of the box elders that line Otter Creek. So now's the time to look for it as the foliage is coming down. Things like this become more apparent. Now, so as I mentioned, I was took a little road trip this weekend out to Kansas City. And some of you might know, for years, when I'm out walking, if I see animal tracks in cement or concrete, I always take a picture of them. I love imagining, the circumstances that they occurred. I've got anything from dogs and cats to chipmunks and squirrels and birds, leaving their permanent mark on sidewalks in different places. Well, in this neighborhood, it was leaves. And it was kind of fun to look down at the sidewalk and then look up and try and find the tree that this came from. So here we have a red maple leaf and a seed that I believe is from that same tree. And where's our other one? There's the other one. A member of the red oak group of trees. And this, I didn't place this year. This was just another tree from another year of growth laying next to, and I don't know when these sidewalks were poured, but this oak tree was actually across the street and its leaves, I guess, tend to go wandering. So anyway, just a fun little hobby and a way to botanize an area from a slightly different perspective. Now let's go back. Got this guy out of order. It's a dead starling. And yes, these guys, they're introduced and they're not native and they displace cavity nesters. But they are really cool looking birds. And this is an example of a bird. Now this bird has it has molted and it's growing in it's what's going to be its winter plumage. But this is where things get even more interesting with the starling. They grow these feathers in the wintertime, and so they get these highly patterned speckles all over their body. As these feathers wear throughout the winter, those speckles go away, and what we're left with in the springtime is a glossy, dark bird that has an iridescent sheen to it. These feathers, even though the ends of them, these spots have worn off, what's left is the breeding plumage. So it's a slightly different approach to getting ready for the breeding season. Rather than molting completely and putting on brand new feathers, they just use these feathers again, but they they're well worn, so those speckles, those spots on the ends tend to go away. You can kind of see hints of the sheen here, down here on the wings and back here on the rump. By the way, there was a house I don't know, a block or two away, and it had become starling central. Now, this neighborhood does have a lot of oak trees, and so there are a lot of different birds. There was a lot. I heard a lot of blue jays. There was a couple of flickers that I tried to get a picture of, but they were just too far away. They were doing their flicka, flicka, flicka call and kind of almost displaying to each other, which to me, it looked sort of like a courtship thing, but it's the wrong season for that. So I don't know if they were trying to communicate to each other that this was a tree that they wanted to build a cavity in for the winter. I'm not sure what was going on, but it was pretty cool to see and hear. But anyway, down the street, there was this house, and it had at least 2 holes in the siding that woodpeckers had pecked holes in previously. But the house, like, it was taken over by starlings. There were starlings going in and out of the sides of the holes in the sides of this house, and there were starlings lined up on the roof of the house. I don't know if this was one from that grouping or if there's another group of starlings around there, but pretty wild to see that many in one area on one house that apparently was still occupied. It wasn't abandoned or anything. They just, I guess they don't, they haven't covered up those woodpecker holes. This bird, it does have a big beak, as you can see, but it does not make its own cavities. It does oust other cavity dwelling birds, which is a problem for some of our woodpeckers, kestrels too. In the kestrel nest box program here in King County, a lot of the boxes that they've put up for kestrels have been taken over by starlings, or get taken over by starlings during the breeding season. What was the other thing I said? Oh, I always throw this out there just in the off chance anybody's looking for a novel sort of a pet. These being exotic birds, there's no protected status on them. You can keep them if you find them. I belonged to a bird club several years ago. It was, in fact, it was the year that the Chicago Bears, the most recent year that they were in the Super Bowl. I don't know, was that 2010? I don't know if there's any Bears fans out there can remember the exact year, but I think it was before that. Anyway, this woman in our bird club had a tree taken down in her yard, and it had a cavity in it with baby starlings. So she took the starlings in and she kept them as pets. She taught them the Chicago Bears fight song, how to whistle it. These birds are related to mynah birds, which years ago they were pretty common in pet stores. You don't see them as much anymore. They're kind of messy to keep. They eat a lot of fruits. They are good mimics, but they're little messy to keep. Starlings aren't quite as messy to me. They have a much more adaptable diet, and yeah, they make great pets. And the more starlings we have in captivity, maybe the fewer we'll have out displacing our local woodpeckers. Yeah, worth a thought. So I continued on my walk, and I gotta tell you, I was baffled by this tree. I was looking at it and I kept thinking, especially when I looked at the leaves, I'm like, it's kind of like a catalpa tree. But it wasn't quite right. I didn't recognize it, and here I, just a few hundred miles away from home, and it's like, I'm on the other side of the earth. As it turns out, it is kind of like being on the other side of the planet, because this is a tree. It's an Asian species of tree. Its common name is the Empress tree, or the princess tree. Paulownia is another. Paulownia is actually the genus name for this tree. And certain states have declared it an invasive species. It's prized by for its springtime foliage. What are now seeds in the springtime are a violet flower, and you can see there's a lot of them just on this one little branch here. Well, imagine a whole tree covered with all those blossoms. It would be a pretty impressive sight. Thing is, a lot of flowers. When you have a lot of flowers, then you end up with a lot of seeds. And when you end up with a lot of seeds, especially in a species that has been introduced into an area, you could end up with an invasion. Now, I didn't see any other trees like this in the area, so maybe this is maybe these seeds aren't fertile. I also didn't look that closely for trees like this, but if we look back at this tree, it was massive. It was a huge tree. In reading up a little bit about it, I learned that they can grow as fast as 15 feet a year. So rapid growing, big old leaves that I would imagine would shade out the competition if it was given a chance. And then many seeds that are produced. But it was an interesting little exercise learning about this tree as well. And I walked a little further and look what I found. My morning walks, my eyes aren't always as focused as I thought. I thought I got a better, but this shot was more in focus than it actually turned out to be. So I found this on the sidewalk, and I was at first excited, and then I was sad because it's dead. But it is a caterpillar, and some of you might recognize it. Now, this didn't have my lip balm with me either. I was really unprepared. All I had was dogs, leashes, and poop bags with me. But this was not, it was actually about the same size as a lip balm. So it was not its full size. It had probably shrunk as it after it died and dried out. And it was very crispy, and it was hollow on the inside. So something had, maybe some ants had a good treat. Anyway, this is an Imperial Moth Caterpillar. Now, Imperial moths, they are members of the giant silk moth family. Laura, you might remember this from a couple years ago. These were two Imperial moths that found each other over on Anderson Boulevard in Geneva. The caterpillar, when it's at its final size before it pupates, it's, oh gosh, I don't know, 5 inches long, 4 or 5. It's a big caterpillar, and it's got fuzz on it. It comes in 2 color variations. Sometimes they're green. I think this was a green one, but sometimes they're brown. And they look kind of fearsome. They're not. They feed on hardwoods, and this was right underneath an oak tree, so I suspect that's where it had been living. Don't know what killed it, but I'm hoping that there are some other ones that are alive and well and will be pupating, so that this neighborhood in Kansas City will get to enjoy some Imperial moths of their own next summer. Go here. And then I saw a lot of these trees, and I thought it was a neat reminder that not all oak trees have lobes. This one here had little acorns that look like this. I wasn't able to remember. I've got 2 dogs, and the poop bags and everything. I wasn't able to get as many pictures as I would like to in playing around with keys and everything. I think this is a laurel oak. But the leaves, let's go back here. The leaves, they don't look oak-like at all, but you know what? They feel like oaks. They were leathery and tough. And that was one clue. And then, of course, there were a lot of acorns on the ground. That was another clue that it was a type of oak tree. But these little acorns, they were really, really tiny. They were smaller than a dime in size. And they were all over the sidewalk. So kind of a cool thing. And just another reminder, you don't have to go that far away to see things that you just wouldn't see here at home. It's always good to be paying attention. Now this, I'm gonna turn off the slideshow here, and I'm gonna zoom in on this. This was a little honeybee that came for a visit on the pajamas that I was wearing. And it took a dive into my drink, which it was a sweet drink. It was a lemon ginger kombucha, which it really seemed interested in that. Every time I looked over, this bee was walking around the rim of the bottle, and then it finally fell in, and I had to pull it out. It was fine. It had to dry up. It's been a long time, flickering its wings, fluttering, and trying to get the tea off of itself so it could fly again. But I wanted you to look. This is a late season honeybee. This is a bee that is in the process of working herself to death. Look at the tatters on the ends of the wings here. This is what happens as the season progresses. I'll zoom in a little bit more. They just wear out. They're going back and forth dozens or even hundreds of times during a day, depending on how far they're flying back and forth. Honeybees, they in their life, which can be as short as 6 weeks for the workers, they start off as what are called loosely called house bees, and they have jobs around the hive where they're taking care of the larvae, they're taking care of the queen. They might be taking out the garbage, the bees that have died, or cleaning up things that get introduced. And they go through a period of time where they might be tending to the nectar that's been brought in. Nectar doesn't magically turn into honey. It has to be fanned so that the moisture evaporates off. The job of the worker bees. Well, after they go through about half of their life, about 3 weeks or so in the summertime, then they switch and they become, instead of being house bees, they become field bees. And they go out and they collect pollen and nectar and bring it back time after time, day after day. And it does take a toll on them. Their bodies do wear out. And this is an example here with these tattered wings. Now, shortly after I took this picture, tech support puppy decided to try and eat the bee, and the bee fought back. Gave him a little poke. You could see him shaking his head. I tried to get a picture of the bee's rump after that, and it just wasn't possible. It was, not only was it still kind of ruffled after having fallen into the drink and then dried off and then almost got eaten. And it did then fly away. But when a honeybee stings, it's always in defense. It's not something they do just for the heck of it, because chances are good after they sting, they're going to die. The honeybee's stinger has barbs in it. And those barbs, once they pierce an object, say a finger or a puppy's mouth, the stinger then becomes embedded in that matter. And when the bee flies away, the rear end literally tears off, and the bee goes off and usually dies because it's lost part of its body. The stinger, though, and the venom sacs stay attached to whatever was stung, and those little sacs continue to inject venom. That's why if you do get stung by a honeybee, it's real important that you get that stinger out as soon as possible to stop getting venom injected into your body. Using a fingernail, sometimes they'll do it, a credit card, tweezers if you have them. It is, though, it's a honeybee, it's a worker honeybee thing. Bumblebees have smooth stingers, or wasps have smooth stingers. Even the queen honeybees have smooth stingers. It's just the worker bees that have those barbs and make it necessary that you remove the stinger once it's in your body. So let's go on. Take this back. Let's go to one more here. So I got home last night and I'd left number 3 dog, Kit. She stayed home. There was a lot of, thumping around and joyous greeting. But then after that, everybody was exhausted. The pet sitter had done a great job of walking Kit while I was gone. My guys were tired from their car ride where they were sort of asleep, but still, it's different. I don't think they had good solid sleep. So everybody was really tired. So the house went from noisy to very quiet. And I kept hearing a low-pitched hum, like something was flying around. And I got excited at first because I thought, well, maybe there's still some big beetles outside. Maybe, maybe one of them came in. Maybe there's some cool beetle in the house. I just have to try and find it. Well, it wasn't a beetle. It was our friend right here. And this, here, let's zoom in, see if you can identify who the insect caller was. If you can't see it from that one, let's look at this angle. There we go. It's a brown marmorated stink bug. So, yep, it's that time. Our friends from the outside are trying to make their way in. Stink bugs, the multicolored Asian lady beetle is another one. And then actually I had a trifecta. I had this guy, the Asian ladybug, and also a box elder bug. All 3 of them had come in and were in various parts of my house. But I thought this was interesting. So my house, this is the bathroom, and the sink. I always have a cup of water there for my cat Jimmy, because his food is up on the counter in the bathroom. It's the most dog-proof place in the house. And so I have a cup of water for him there. And this is where these insects often end up. I always think of it as, if you're thirsty, then they're thirsty. They're an insect that is drawn to the indoors for shelter. That's what they would do in their native range, as they would go into crevices in cliffs and places like that to overwinter. We don't have a lot of cliffs around here, but we have a lot of houses. So these guys wiggle their way in. This one may have just flown in, when I had the back door open. Not exactly sure, but they come inside. And now we did have some warm days these past few days, but I've had the furnace on too, and so my indoor humidity has dropped quite a bit from what it was over the summer. Remember, we've talked about this pretty much all summer long, how muggy weather is buggy weather. These guys really do need humidity in order to survive. Once they're inside, they don't find that, so they make their way towards places where there's moisture, sinks, tubs, cups of water. You'll sometimes find them if you have a dish drainer, or if you have a place where you store like a kitchen, either a dish rag or a sponge, something like that for dishes. They like to gather in those areas where there is moisture. So it's the time, it's the season. Be on the lookout for these brown marmorated stink bugs. We can tell it's not a native one if we look at the antennae, which have these lighter segments interspersed with the darker ones. That's the main giveaway. We do have native stink bugs, and not all of them are bad. In fact, there's a couple that are spined soldier bugs that look similar to this, but they've got more of a point here at the shoulder area. So you don't always want to kill them right away. I want to make sure you know what you're looking at. I don't kill any of them because I know they're not going to survive for long. And being that this is where the cat has his food and his water, this is also where the cat can find these. They do make kind of fun cat toys from what I've been able to see. All right, with that, looks like we got some chats to get to here. And let's see. Zoom changed its logo, and I'm having a devil of a time finding it here at the bottom of the screen. Here we go. Let's see, Laura, how do armadillos overwinter even in the southern half of Illinois? I have a feeling they might have burrows that they go down, whether it's something, I know they're good diggers. They're always ruffling around in vegetation and stuff. They might dig their own burrow, or they might find something else dug that they're able to get down in. Because you're right, that map showed them they're touching Menard County, which is the area that my mom is from, just northwest of Springfield. And sometimes we go down to Grandma and Grandpa's for Easter, and I'm sorry, Easter too, and it can be pretty cold, but I was thinking more of a snowstorm that we experienced when we were down there for Thanksgiving. And I'd never had to deal with snow drifts before, but when you're out in the Grand Prairie / cornfield part of the state, and there's nothing to stop the snow from blowing across, and I was having all kinds of fun falling into drifts, that were, up to my waist or even higher, and then trying to dig my way out. So yeah, they do get winters down there, but I'm thinking they can go for short periods of time. I don't know if they go into a hibernative state, though. That's something I have to delve into a little bit more. I know up here the thinking is they can't survive. So down there it must either be shorter periods of time, or it must be shorter periods of time that they count on the winter lasting. That's what we're going to go with for now. Let's see if we have some other armadillo. Showed an interesting map of the range of the armadillos. Can you give me the website? Yes. So that information, there's a great website, and I'm going to see if I can talk about this while I'm looking it up. I believe it's called Illinois Wildlife. Wildlife Illinois. So Jerry, the website is wildlifeillinois.org, and they've got a search function. I should put this on this share here. All right, here, let me pull this up. So so this is, let me go back here so you can see the homepage. Wildlife Illinois is a really comprehensive, and it's constantly growing too. They're always adding to it. Lots and lots of information about really the mammals. Some of it is geared towards hunting, the fur bearers that we have in the state, but they've got lots and lots of different sections. Wildlife ID is, I believe, where that map came from. So there's a search bar here on the right. I typed in armadillo, and here's the results. So there's a page for reporting sightings. And then here's where I got that information. The 9-banded armadillo. There's the range map. But this section about armadillos, there we go. It's very distinct and not easily confused with any other animal that is found in Illinois. So that'll help you know that you're looking at an armadillo. Size of a large cat. The body resembles an opossum. Every single animal that's profiled in this website, they have this size measurement. They don't use lip balms. They use a man that's 6 feet tall, but they compare different animals to the size of a man. Here's some more learning. Now, maybe some of you might want to click on that. I wonder if the answer to our question about how they overwinter might be found in one of these articles. All right, so here, we talked about how quickly they're expanding. In the early 1800s, they weren't found north of the Rio Grande River, but they have advanced steadily northward since the 1850s. They're first documented here in 1979. And then it talks about how crossing bridges, hopping rail cars, swimming rivers, moved by misguided humans, and is climate change affecting their advancement? So it looks like there's some studies that are being done. So this in general, armadillos aside, this is a wonderful resource that we have here that's put together by the IDNR Wildlife Illinois. All right, let me see. I'm going to stop the share for this and we'll go back. Thank you, Jerry. The Bears were in the Super Bowl in 1986. Oh, 2007. That's the one. 1986. I definitely remember that one because they won. 2007 was the year that I was in the bird club, that the woman in the club had taught her. In fact, she was even on television. There were the local news stations had her on with her whistling starlings, singing the Bears song. Thank you, Jerry. Let's see. Do any animals enjoy the wild cucumber root? Laura, I don't know that it's edible. I looked it up. Now, I'm going to qualify that by saying I looked it up to see if humans could eat it, and we can't. But I don't know it, and I almost wonder if maybe some birds, those seed cases are kind of hollow. You open them up, and there's strands inside with some seeds. It could be that some birds, or if the chipmunks are still active, or squirrels, they might eat them, but I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. The seed case itself kind of it's got a protective coating of those little spines all around it, so it might not be attractive even for those animals. Yes, armadillo. So armadillo, the Spanish version of the pronunciation. When I wrote about, I'm going to go with armadillo. That's what I'm most comfortable saying. When I wrote about them back in, I think it was before we built Hickory Knoll, so sometime between 2007 and 2010. I wrote about how this one had shown up in Cook County, and we should be on the lookout for them up here. Well, I got a very long voicemail, and I always can tell, like if I get a voicemail, it gives a date and timestamp on it. If it's I get calls on the weekends, that's not a big deal. But if it's like 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, I always am a little hesitant to listen, or I wonder, what prompts this call. Well, this was a phone call voicemail that I received very late at night, and the gentleman pronounced the animal's name is an armadillo, and he was very, very upset that I was even suggesting we should, be looking for these things. He thought they should be killed on sight because of their connection with Hansen's disease, which is also known as leprosy. And boy, if I dig back in the archives, I might even be able to find this email or this voicemail. But I distinctly remember him saying that, if they're allowed near to get near playgrounds, the children might come into contact with them and they would lose their digits. So I don't know. I didn't call that one back. I didn't call him back. But he did use that pronunciation of armadillo. All right. Let's see. Okay. They remind, kind of remind you of porcupines. How common are porcupines in northern Illinois, the Midwest? They're not in Illinois. I think historically we might have had some, but they have not been seen here in a very, very, very long time. And I don't, historically, I don't know when to draw the line of when they disappeared, but they are present in Wisconsin. I remember being on a hike in Door County and having the naturalists on that hike explain how the porcupines there, that they had to be careful where they parked their cars, the naturalists, not the porcupines, but the porcupines, they're rodents, so they have gnawing teeth and they like to lick and chew on the salt on vehicles, road salt that had gathered on cars, the tires, and also some of the pipes, tubes, whatever parts of your engine, and how the porcupine damage was a real concern up that way. So I would think, the northern half of Wisconsin, if you draw a line, that's where they would be seen. I did have one report, one woman who called in and she thought she saw a porcupine in a tree at Norris Woods. I think she probably saw a woodchuck. Woodchuck's other name is groundhog. We don't think of them as being able to climb, but it's kind of what I think it was. She thought it might have been a porcupine. But yeah, they don't live in this part of Illinois.
Thanks.
Oh, we've got a tick report. 10 ticks on the dog on the Andrini Trail. It's so ticks, they're active throughout our warm weather season. They start sometimes as soon as March and go all the way through into November. But there's periods of time where they are more active than others. Laura, I know you said you encountered some ticks when you were teaching out at Hickory Knolls. 10 ticks on the dog, that's a lot of ticks. And we used to say, they're just dog ticks, but they're not. We do have the deer ticks in this area too. So please be careful. The pyrethrin sprays and the pyrethrin treatments for your clothing, those are two good things to do to protect yourselves. There's tick things that you can either put on your dog in the form of an oil or give them in the form of a pill that can help protect them. But I just learned last week from our finance superintendent, she said that her dog actually got Lyme disease from a tick bite here in Illinois, and she always applies she treats her dogs, gives them anti-tick medicine, but even though that kills the tick after it bites, apparently it can still transmit disease if it's on the dog for long enough. So yeah, we need to be careful until it's another good reason to, hope for a nice cold, snowy winter, because that's the one time a year we don't have to worry about ticks. And then Sarah, yes, thank you. The moose heart eagle tree is coming down. I was visiting at a retirement community last week, and a gentleman gave me this article that was in Kane County Connects. Tomorrow is the day. I would imagine they might have a backup day if the weather isn't suitable for cutting down trees, but the tree that the eagles are nesting in is so unstable right now. There's concern that it's going to come down after they've laid eggs in it in the coming nesting season, which will be starting in late winter. So this is a proactive movement. I thought it was a pretty cut and dried and a pretty sound, reasonable decision. But boy, I'm surprised reading some of the comments on some of the articles online and some of the Facebook pages that have been reporting on it. There's a lot of people that are upset that the tree is coming down. You know, why can't we stabilize the tree? Why can't we move the nest? You know, the eagles are going to be devastated. I'm sure it's going to upset them for a short time, but this is something that happens in the wild. Sometimes eagles don't just lose their nest, they lose their offspring too. So doing it at a time when it's not nesting season, I think it is a smart move. It is done. It's some article, or not articles, but some people were commenting, you know, that it's illegal to tamper with an eagle's nest. Well, this is all being done in conjunction and with the guidance of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife people. So it's not Mooseheart just saying, we got to take the tree down. But yeah, tomorrow is the day. So we'll have to watch and see that some of the eagle watchers in the area are pretty confident that the birds are going to move to a tree that's close by there. There's a white pine that is one that they roost in frequently already. I don't think it's not real clear, but you can see that the tree is just a spindly bunch of dried sticks at this point. So yeah, hopefully, you know, it all goes well. But I know there will be some upset from the eagles, but they'll get over it. Look what the eagles down in Florida just had to contend with Hurricane Ian. It's not a pair, it's a trio of nesting eagles out on the Mississippi River. They lost their nest last November. They were able to rebuild quickly enough to be back at it and raising young again once breeding season came around. So it's something that happens, and this is just a move to you know, prevent loss of life, because if the tree were to come down with eaglets in it, that could be devastating to the young. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of news. I would imagine maybe some of the local news outlets will be out there tomorrow covering it, because it is kind of big news. They've been an institution there for years and years. Thanks, Sarah, for that. Let's see. Oh, Mary Alice, thank you for checking on our cucumber faunal associations. This is a great website that Mary Alice has shared here. We just had Wildlife Illinois. Well, this is illinoiswildflowers.info. Each page on that website starts off with a description of the plant, the foliage and its growth habits, what its flowers and its fruit looks like. But farther down on the page, it also has a distribution map that you can click on. And then at the bottom, it always has faunal associations. So looks like we've got a fair amount of long-tongued bees, some of our bigger wasps and flies are attracted to the wild cucumber nectar. Beetles will feed on the plant juices, and the fruit itself is inedible. So, all right. So there's actually burr cucumber, Sicyos angulatus, that's a slightly different. It's actually the next one down in Dick Young's book, burr cucumber. It also rates a 5 and is also considered uncommon, and it also grows in floodplains and partially shaded wetlands. It's Dick Young says it is closely related and similar to wild cucumber. However, the 5-petaled August and September blossoms and pod clusters distinguish this pleasant open climbing annual from its more common close cousin. The Latin for wild cucumber is Echinocystis, Echinocystis lobata. Echinocystis lobata is the wild cucumber. But I would imagine they're both probably kind of inedible. Let's see, that takes us to the bottom of the chats up, except okay, mid-morning tomorrow. Thank you, Kay, for that clarification on the eagle's nest coming down. Yeah, boy, I just scheduled a meeting for mid-morning tomorrow, but oh, and I'm not a member of the Moose either to go and be on the property, but I would imagine they'll probably have the whole area cordoned off. But yeah, we'll check the news tomorrow. I bet you there'll be maybe even a helicopter to add to all the commotion. We'll see. Folks, I want to end with a video that I think you're gonna love. It's from our new friend Allison, who joined us last week to share her experience with fighting fires in the Wild Wild West. This was an experience that she had. I believe it was over the weekend, and I want to make sure I don't louse up this share. We're gonna take a look at a visitor that came calling. All right. Who's that? Allison, I think you're on tonight, aren't you? There is a
Yep, I'm on.
I believe that was a mule deer that came up to the front door. Allison had some pumpkins there on the front step, and Allison's deer at the door. We'll also get a glimpse of Allison's puppy Luna, who's almost as tall as a deer. But I guess the deer had been knocking, and then yeah, having a little snack. That's fantastic. Anyway, appreciate you sharing that with us, Allison. And I just realized I'm wondering if you guys are talking and I can't hear you. Let's stop this share. I wonder if my speakers have gone on. If anyone is talking, I can't hear you. So it wouldn't be a good-natured hour without a technical snafu now, would it? Thank you so much, everybody, for spending part of your Tuesday evening here sharing some good nature. I hope to see you back again next week.
Thanks,
Have a
Pam.
great rest of your weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Love
Thanks,
the
Pam.
video.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.